business ethics, I teach also ecological ethics, which is about conservation of nature. I think it is less than 10% of the natural forest being left. So they cut down trees to plant food, but also they sell charcoal, they firewood, and some poor people for building their houses. Having your own food, growing your own food, even if the production is so little, you are more valued with at the village level.
Could you introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Bernard Kakuhikire. I work with Mbarara University of Science and Technology in the Faculty of Business and Management Sciences. And I teach business ethics and entrepreneurship. And in business ethics, I teach also ecological ethics, which is about conservation of nature. And I like this because it shows how we are all dependent on nature. Without nature, we are almost dead. That is my biggest concern, and I have had it for the last almost 10 years, and I have been into environmental conservation through tree planting with the students here and our collaborators, especially in the US, but also with the local schools.
Aha. So I have some questions for you because I'm very interested in what is happening here and how everything is going. So they are very specific questions.
Okay.
So my first is, what is the main reason people are cutting down forest here in Uganda?
Basically, the main reason is that basically they are burning for charcoal. There is a lot of pressure on the land, especially for agriculture, so they cut down trees to plant food, but also they sell charcoal, they firewood, and some poor people for building their houses.
Uh-huh. And how much percent of natural forest is left? Do you know that? And how fast is it decreasing?
I think I will just estimate, I think it is less than 10% of the natural forest being. When we talk of natural forests, we have these big forests which have also been invaded by the big industries and the big developers. But we have also the natural forests within our communities, which we have almost completely finished by cutting them down to do agriculture and for the reasons I have already mentioned, to burn it, charcoal, firewood, and for building construction.
So not a lot left. And what are the environmental and economical costs of this deforestation that are already affecting the economy and the lives of the people?
We have had enough soil erosion. We have had these gullies. Now we are talking about floods that we never had before, but also productivity of the soils have become so poor because there is we lack soil conservation. You know, forests conserve the soils. Now the forest cover is gone, and also productivity has gone. Though we clear the forest so that we can produce more food, now the food production is no longer there. Apparently, we never used to rely on artificial fertilizers. Now people are talking of using artificial fertilizers, and that is the biggest worry. How many can afford? When we had our forests, you would not think about using fertilizer. We have cut them down. Now there is another bigger cost. If you are to do any production, you need the artificial fertilizers. We never had this here. That is a very big cost on every family, and it goes even to the market. Now the prices of food has gone so high, and we never used to have that. And how many people can afford?
Yeah, so the costs are there and they're showing.
The costs are there and they are showing. Everyone is affected.
A question, but like, do you know places where the forest regenerates from itself? So places that were abandoned, maybe your answer says that they're not there, but so do you see the strengths of nature so that some places it even can regenerate?
There are so many examples. People who have left some places because they are no longer productive. Now nature has taken over. The trees have come up again, and you can see green plants growing. That means when you leave it for some time, it can regenerate on its own without the interference of human being. But apparently, when it regenerates, people come back now, and basically the cycle continues.
Yeah. I see people had enormous plantations of eucalyptus and pines. Yeah, I think it's Mexican pines. And specifically about the eucalyptus, and maybe later you can talk about the pines. Are they a curse or for the eucalyptus part, could they also be a blessing in disguise?
Eucalyptus, people like it as a blessing because it regenerates. When you cut, it regenerates. In fact, you plant one tree, when you cut, it produces like 10 fruits, then you can leave like 5. People like eucalyptus more than, I think, more than pine, because when you cut pine, it never regenerates. But in terms of the effect on the soil and fertility, I think both trees are dangerous, but I think pine is more dangerous to the soil, to our soils, than eucalyptus. But commercially, people like eucalyptus because it regenerates itself. And there is a talk that because its trees are bigger, it is far much better in terms of environmental conservation, but also you check how much what it takes in terms of conservation. I think it takes a lot of water from the ground, so it affects the soil also.
Yeah.
But here, most people are going for eucalyptus now, with the failure of the pine project, because so many people planted pine. It was, I think, a World Bank project with the government, and people were talking about pine. Everyone planted pine, but now at the harvest time, everyone is producing. The prices have gone down because it is a question of demand and supply. The demand is very little. The supply is too much. Even the money they put in, I don't think they will get it from pine. But with eucalyptus, and apparently everyone here, almost 80% of our population uses firewood and charcoal. So with pine, with the eucalyptus being a hard wood, people prefer that for firewood especially, and even for timber.
And I see people growing crops on very steep lands and hills, like very, very steep. Is there other ways they could earn money on these plots? Because they're growing cassava there, it creates a lot of erosion because sometimes it's steep. It's incredible. Is there another way they could earn money on these steep hills?
If they did terracing, they could, within different terraces and galleries, you could plant different kind of trees. In fact, I'm thinking about coffee. Coffee does not destroy the soil, but you can get money from the coffee beans while you are conserving the environment. But you need, when you are on a steep hill, you need to do more of the terracing, so that when rain falls and there is washout, the galleries can accommodate this soil, and whatever goes, it falls into another gallery. There you can plant within the galleries your beans, while on other places you can plant other crops like maize. You can plant even the cassava you are talking about, but at least you need to do the gallery so that the soil that is not washed down.
Yeah. How much does the average farmer gain per year on these kind of lands?
On average, I don't think people basically look at the money aspect. They look mainly at food and they never monetize it. But I can imagine per acre, the crops you grow there, you get like about, on average, about between $150 and about $300 on average, depending on the crop. If it is coffee, it could even be more. But because they are growing basically food crops, they even could be getting even less than 150,000 per acre.
Yeah.
Because when you grow like beans, it is only 2 seasons. The only thing on an acre you can get like three tins. 18 is about to $25 at harvest. So it
Yeah.
is even less than that
Yeah.
per acre.
Yeah, so mainly people are working for food
Yeah,
because
mainly
it's a
working.
main income, and if they have a little bit left of that they can sell,
They will sell
then
like
they
50
will
or
sell it.
something.
Yeah, and so we are working on an idea to give landowners compensation for letting forest untouched, be untouched. So that would mean that I think they would minimally get the double of what they normally would earn. That would make them that interested for you. Could that be a stimulus for the people? So that and is this can you arrange this here, like, or is it very difficult to arrange?
I think you can arrange it, but don't look at the compensation as if it is going to stand in as an alternative for their land usage. People are more attached to food production. I produce my own food even if I get less. So the only thing you can work with such a farmer is that can they allocate a certain piece, a certain percentage of their land to the trees, other than saying replace your land, whatever you have been doing on your land with the trees. Because here it is how do I call it? Having your own food, growing your own food, even if the production is so little, you are more valued with at the village within the community than even if you have millions to go and purchase from the from the stores or the supermarket. So food production here, there is a cultural attachment.
Yeah.
So you need to work with such a farmers. The way it would be a motivator is that can you use, for instance, at the edges of their acres of land, can they plant trees that would come like a hedge? A hedge. Or can they get, let's say, if they had like an acre, can they put like a quarter of an acre for trees?
Yeah.
Then you would pay, they compensate them for the trees planted. That could be a motivator. But say that this one gives you more money, use it as an alternative, replace whatever you have.
It does not work.
It may not work.
Yeah.
It could work for some people, but it will not work.
Yeah, okay. So over here, basically, growing your own food is also making sure you survival, and that is the most important thing. So even like what you said with the cassava, and so the best option is to go in the direction of agroforestry.
Agroforestry would work. That's what I was talking about. Coffee. Coffee is a tree that is a forest. Then you are also getting money from it. Then the other agroforestry, can you put trees like grevillea? If I plant grevillea in a banana plantation, the bananas will not be affected. In fact, grevillea, the leaves add more fertile manure to the ground, so that at least the crops can grow up together. I will have my trees, I will have also my bananas. But when you say cut down the bananas, plant the trees, people will say no.
And I see a lot of tea here. Is that also an option, or with tea you really need big fields? No. Otherwise it's
tea,
not.
You need big fields, and when you look at the tea, it is just at the ground. And also tea grows in acidic soils. That's why they are not everywhere. There, like in this area, you can hardly grow tea. But where I think towards Kasese and the Fort Portal, where there is acidic soils, you grow a lot of what? You can grow a lot of trees. That's why where there are tea trees, you hardly grow bananas the way you see them here. You plant it and it will not grow there because it survives more in loamy soils than acidic soils.
So now the last question, if you were the cook of environmental preservation here in Uganda, so and if you would make a recipe for all the country, for the mountains and other areas, what kind of recipe would you make, like that would benefit people, would protect, be a buffer for big national parks, and also protect and preserve the mountains and also the groundwater?
I think I would do a lot of mixes. One of the things I would start with is education about the ecosystem, how it depends on each other, why we need trees and why the trees basically need us, and how our animals can survive with the trees. Because at times when you start talking about it, is like as if it is far-fetched. The other thing, I would do the demonstration to get like a plot and I see how things can change. If it is like an area that is almost becoming a desert and I plant some trees and I can show what has happened, let's say within about 3 years. People usually want to learn from examples. Then the other thing, you need also to look at who owns the land and who does agriculture on the land. I think I will tell you a story after here, but also the other risk I would add on, the children are good runners and good implementers. At times I think we start with who owns the land, who is the head of the family, but at times children spend more time at schools, in the education institution, than they spend at home, because most of our schools are boarding schools. So can you work with the administration of the school and they give you a chunk of land and make sure that you form like clubs within school, environmental clubs, and these clubs, you can give them some little compensation, but children will be happy to show that they are bringing something to life, especially in a tree. If you give each child a tree, on average, every school has about 500 pupils or students. If each student planted 2 trees every year, that would be 1,000 trees. Let us assume that 70% of these survive. How many trees will you be having in your and in the country? And every school has at least a place where they can do gardening. Some just empty land. The other institution that you need to look at, faith-based institutions, churches, mosques, all those have land. And in fact, for them, you can say, can we plant trees here? Then you who look after them? Or we are giving you free seedlings. Look after these trees. And if there is some little compensation, let's say every tree that reaches, let's say 5 meters, you will be given, let's say, even if it is 2,000 shillings per year, as long as it makes 5 meters, then trees will grow. That's the kind of risk I would work with, but I would work more with institutions because they have more land. Then I could go into the communities, see the families, can you dedicate a certain piece of land? Or like I have told you, every household has like a plot that they call their own. Can they plant trees along and they become like demarcations of their pieces of land? You can imagine in an acre along, you can plant even more than 100 trees. So if like neighbors within every small community you have planted, like there are 5 neighbors, if each one planted 100 trees along the edge of their land, those are already 500 trees. So that is the kind of recipe that I would put into the environmental protection if it is to be successful. But institutions have a lot of land, empty land that they hardly use, and I think they don't have even a plan for it. But if you give prompts them, most schools use even firewood. If we say, when you harvest, after let's say 10 years, you can harvest, but when you harvest, plant 3 more trees. That would be an incentive.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well, thank you for your time and all the inspiration and information you give.
Welcome.
And who knows, maybe we can work together in the future.
Yeah, who knows? We can. I think we should. We should. We should work together on this.
Thanks.